The thing that actually broke the economy in 2008 wasn't risky home loans. It was a quiet accounting trick, and some say a similar kind of thinking can show up in how big companies present their spending. Now stay with me, because most people remember 2008 as a story about greedy banks handing mortgages to people who couldn't pay. That part is real, but it's not the engine. The engine was something far more boring and far more dangerous. A way of moving risk off the books so it looked like it had disappeared. Picture a friend who owes money on 3 credit cards. He doesn't pay them off. He just opens a 4th card, moves the debt there, and tells you he's debt-free. The debt didn't vanish. It got relabeled. In 2008, an entire financial system did that with houses. And here in our AI gold rush, it's worth asking how companies present the cost of computer chips and data centers. Follow the incentives, not the headlines, and you start to see it. By the end of this, you'll spot the move yourself, in plain daylight. In press releases, everyone's cheering. Let me show you the trick itself, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Back in the 2000s, banks made home loans, but they didn't want to just sit and wait 20 years to get paid back. That's slow money. So they bundled thousands of mortgages together into a single product and sold it to investors. This is called securitization, a fancy word for a simple idea. Turn a pile of loans into something you can sell, like turning a basket of apples into bottles of juice. The genius and the poison was this. Once the bank sold the loan, the risk wasn't on the bank's books anymore. It belonged to whoever bought the bottle. So the bank stopped caring whether the borrower could actually pay. Why would it? It already got its money and moved on. Imagine a chef who knows someone else eats every meal he cooks. He stops tasting the food. The whole chain rewarded volume, not quality. More loans, more bottles, more fees. And the people buying the bottles trusted a stamp that said, "This is safe." That stamp is where the story turns dark. Here's the piece that made the whole machine run. The rating agencies. These are companies whose entire job is to grade how safe a financial product is, from the gold standard top grade down to junk. Investors all over the world rely on these grades the way you'd rely on a 5-star review before booking a hotel. Now follow the incentive, because this is pure Zavrek. Who paid the rating agencies? Critics have long pointed out that in this business, the firms selling a product were often the ones paying for it to be graded, though how much that shaped the grades remains a debated question. Sit with that. It's like a student paying the teacher who marks his exam, and the teacher knowing if he marks too harshly, the student takes his business to a friendlier teacher next door. So bundles stuffed with shaky loans got that top gold standard grade anyway. Pension funds, towns, retirement savers across the planet bought them thinking they were rock solid. They were not. When borrowers stopped paying, those gold-stamped bottles turned out to be full of spoiled juice. And the loss didn't land on the clever banks who built them. It landed on ordinary people who simply trusted the stamp. That gap between who profited and who paid is the whole story. Now here's what people get wrong about 2008. They imagine a handful of villains in a dark room who knew it was a fraud. The reality is stranger and scarier. Most people inside the machine genuinely believed it would hold, because the music was still playing and everyone was dancing. There's a famous line from a bank chief at the time who basically said, "As long as the music is playing, you have to get up and dance." Think about what that means. He's admitting it ends badly, and admitting he'll keep going anyway, because if he stops dancing and his rivals don't, he looks like a fool and loses his job this quarter. That's the trap. The incentive to keep going was personal and immediate. The risk of stopping was personal and immediate too. The danger of a collapse was distant, shared, and somebody else's problem. So thousands of smart, rational people each made a sane individual choice, and together they built something insane. That's the part to remember, because the AI boom runs on the exact same human wiring. Nobody wants to be the one who stopped dancing first. Real quick, if you've made it this far, I'm guessing you're finding this as fascinating as I do. This channel follows the money behind AI and big business, who really pays and who quietly profits. If that's useful to you, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss one. It genuinely helps us make more. Okay, back to it. Okay, this is the heart of it, the part I really want you to catch. AI runs on incredibly expensive computer chips packed into giant warehouses called data centers. These chips are not cheap, and they don't last forever. Like a delivery van, they wear out and become outdated as faster ones arrive. Here's where the modern trick lives. When a company buys something expensive that wears out, accounting lets it spread the cost over the years it expects to use it. That's called depreciation. If you say a chip lasts much longer than it really stays useful, you cut this year's reported cost on paper, even though the cash already left the building. Now watch the incentive. A longer estimated lifespan makes today's profits look bigger and the spending look gentler, exactly when investors are watching most closely. It's the relabeling move all over again. The cost didn't shrink. It just got pushed into the future and dressed up as smaller. And the assumed lifespan of this gear is the kind of judgment call worth paying attention to. The cash burn is real and enormous. The reported pain is softened by a single assumption almost nobody questions. Let me make this concrete, because this is where it stops being theory. Imagine a company that spends an enormous sum in a single year on AI chips and data centers. That's real scale, the kind of number the biggest players now throw around. To humanize that, it's a fortune so large you could spend steadily for a lifetime and never burn through it. These firms are doing it inside a single year. Now apply the lifespan choice. The way depreciation works, if you assume those chips last a long time, you report only a fraction of the cost this year. If you'd honestly assumed a much shorter life, because that's closer to how quickly cutting-edge AI hardware stops being state-of-the-art, you'd report a far larger cost. That gap in reported cost is conjured by one assumption, in 1 year for one company. The cash out the door is identical either way. Only the story told to investors changes. And remember, in 2008, the dangerous number was also one nobody wanted to look at too hard.